Hello, team. Right, we're going to run you through arguably one of the most important things that you are going to learn in your business. Now, this for me was something that fundamentally changed how I approached getting clients. And I think it's super important for you guys to learn because if you don't, you view social media, content creation, you view lead magnets and everything in the wrong way. So, if you are someone who's been in business for a long time, or you're just getting kind of started with the online thing, regardless of where you're at, this is something that I probably learned in the last few years and it really clicked with me. And this is what I want to teach you. I don't want to just teach you, hey, this is how we get clients in. I want to teach you the process that clicked with me in the right way, which fundamentally changed how I ran my business for good. Okay. So, there's two things that we really need to understand here. Number one is the timeline through which people come into your business and how that happens. And number two, where people are in your audience. Okay. So we're going to dive in and we're going to use this pyramid here as well as this timeline here to explain this. Okay. So let's first of all run through a bit of a timeline. And in fact, we can use the pyramid also to display this. So I'll kind of link between the two. All right. So at the minute, we are in a position where there are strangers on the internet, right? There's millions and millions of strangers, and we call this the sea of socials, right? This is the sea of socials, and your followers are like fishies swimming in the ocean, right? And when you post a piece of content out to the world, it gets shown to people. And what can happen is this gets put out into the sea of socials like every other piece of content. Some people are already following you, and some people aren't following you. Okay, so we've got people in the sea of socials who already follow you, and we've got people in the sea of socials who don't know who you are and they don't follow you. The people who already follow you see this content and it helps move them along the timeline. Okay, we'll explain that in a moment. The people who don't follow you, they see a piece of content and they might go, wow, this is really good. I'm going to drop this person a follow. And suddenly that person becomes a follower. Nice and easy, nice and simple, right? So when we post content, we can gain followers off the back of it. And what happens is they suddenly enter this timeline down here. Okay. Now, when someone is in your world, this is your kind of audience, your coaching world, they are in your audience now. Okay. This is someone who knows who you are. They see your stuff. They maybe like you more than other people. You know, there's someone who knows who you are. They see your content. They're a follower, basically, right? This is someone entering into this pyramid right here. Okay. So this pyramid is basically this timeline, but laid out flat. Okay. We have people who are ready to buy at the top. This is people in the buy zone. We have people who are on the fence. This is people down here. Those colors I really should have done this in a different color, shouldn't I? Let's do it now really quickly so it's not confusing. We have people on the fence who are, they're not quite ready to buy yet, but they're not far off. They're people who are, maybe needing a bit of convincing. They're maybe a little bit worried about joining a coaching because they've been burnt before, or there's just something that they're like, oh man, like this is a bit of a concern for me. And then we also have people down here who is the rest of your audience, who are people who are future buyers. They're not people who are quite ready to buy yet. They're just people who are essentially one day they will be ready to buy, and you need to get them there. And then finally, we have never buyers. This is people who follow you, but they're never going to buy from you. They're not interested. They don't want your thing. Maybe they liked your content a while ago, but it's just there's no glue there, and they're not going to buy from you. We do not worry about these people. Okay, they're people who follow you, but we're not trying to nurture them or do anything with them. Okay, so when someone follows you, our goal is to move this person along this timeline to the point where they are in the buy zone. And when they're in the buy zone, that means that we can sell them something. Because if they're not in the buy zone, by definition, they are not ready to buy something from you. When they're in the buy zone, they want to buy your stuff. When they're not in the buy zone, they don't want to buy your stuff. If they're on the fence, they want to buy your stuff, but there's something that they need to get past. There's a little hurdle in the way that they need to get over and jump over to finally get into the buy zone. Okay? Nice and simple, easy to understand. You have people who follow you, and your goal is to get them into the buy zone. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we move people along the timeline into the buy zone? Well, every single time that someone consumes a piece of content from you, okay? So this could be a short form piece of content, which is, 30 seconds maybe. They could maybe get an email from you, which maybe takes them 2 minutes. They maybe get a long form YouTube video that they record, and sorry, not that they record, that they see from you. Maybe they get a story on Instagram that they see from you and it's 10, 20 seconds long. Every single touch point that someone has with you is time they are spending with your brand. Okay, so every single touch point, every video, every podcast, every YouTube video, every single thing that someone consumes from you is time someone's spending with your brand. And we call this brand width. Okay, so essentially what happens is providing this content, the stuff that you're making and putting out to your audience, is the right type of content. And that's a discussion for another day. We'll just assume that you're making the right type of content for this training. Assuming that this content is the right type of content, every single piece that they see slowly moves them along the timeline until they get sufficient brand width that they get into the buy zone or the on the fence zone. They're in this kind of land now. Okay, so every single piece that they consume moves them across the timeline. And when we finally get them here, we want to do something to convert them, to get them to become a customer. Now, for most people, they get this process a little bit wrong. And here's why. What used to work on social media is you could post content, someone follow you, and then you could just post more content, more content, more content, more content, and then finally someone would go, oh my God, I want to buy from you. Or you could post hey, I'm looking for 5 people, which by the way, those approaches of like, hey, I'm looking for 5 people, they don't not work. They've just kind of a bit overplayed and you can't rely on them, okay? But they still do work at the end of the day. But essentially, you could just post. You could just post, and people would join. It was a really easy world. You could just send a bunch of messages, and people would just be like, "Yeah, that sounds good," and they'd sign up. Nowadays, the audience is a little bit more mature. People have been burnt. People have been, seeing things. The audience needs a little bit more of a reason to take action, and this is where a lot of coaches are failing. Is because what they're doing is they're getting that brand width. They are posting consistently, and they're getting brand width, and they're growing their audience up to this zone. But what's happening is they get their audience to this on the fence zone or this buy zone, and then they're just serving them more content. The analogy that I would use here is that we've got a lovely tasty bowl of whatever this food is here, right? Some nice chicken and rice. And it's been in the fridge. It's something that's in the back of the fridge, and suddenly we go, you know what, I'm going to eat that. And we take it out of the fridge and we pop it in the microwave. And we give it some time in the microwave, and it moves along and along and along and along and along. And it warms the food up. It gets it to a nice point that we go, oh, is it on the fence? Do I need to pop it in for another 30 seconds? Yeah, I do. Up, now we're in the buy zone, right? And when we're in the buy zone with that food, that's the equivalent to the food getting hot enough that we go, I can eat that now. That's delicious. Now, what you're meant to do is you're meant to take the food out the microwave and eat it. You go, that was delicious, amazing. But what's happening, and where a lot of coaches are staying stuck, is they just continue to feed more content to their audience. In other words, they open the microwave, they go, God, that's boiling hot, that's ready to eat. Let's put it in for another 5 minutes. Ding, and it's going round and round. And then they get it out, yeah, that's good. Another 5 minutes. And they're just continuously microwaving the same food. You're just doing the same job over and over again. Our job, when someone gets to this buy zone, is to take the food out and eat it. And in other words, that is our job, is to do something to convert that person into a paying customer or client. Okay? And this requires a conversion event. The conversion event. Okay? Now, a conversion event is selling something, an offer, something like that. Okay? And this is the kind of area that we find ourselves stuck in. Is that because a lot of coaches are just serving more and more content to people, they think, either because it's what worked for them in the past, or they just haven't learned how to do this, they think that having a call to action in a piece of content, or saying, hey, come work with me in a piece of content, is lead generation. It is not. Okay? It is not. Lead generation is the act of moving people up this pyramid and converting them into paying customers and clients. Okay? If you just move people to the top of the pyramid and then you keep just pushing them up and up and up till they get to the tippy top, and then you just keep doing what you did to move them up, that isn't lead generation, or it's not full lead generation. You're just doing part of the process. Okay? Your job here is to move people up the pyramid so that they can convert to a customer, which is the same as someone comes in as a follower, you move them up, and then you convert them. Someone comes in as a follower, you move them up, you convert them. The pyramid, this line here that you can see, is this line here. It's the same thing. We just move people up that pyramid or along the timeline. Okay? Now, brand width, the speed at which you move someone through this, can be sped up by getting someone to consume more time with your brand. Now, this can take as long as it takes, unfortunately. Every business is different. You can do things to speed it up, but it takes as long as it takes to get a good customer. We've all had those customers who come in, they follow us, they buy immediately, and they're awful clients because they don't know who we are, they don't like us, they don't trust us, they don't know our kind of ethos and methodology around things, and they become awful customers off the back of it. We don't want that. I would rather have someone who's followed me for 2 years suddenly become a client than someone who's followed me for a week. 100 times out of 100. Anytime I've ever got someone in as a quick client, I would say 9 times out of 10, they've been awful customers. I can name a handful. People like Mads, for example, came in really quickly. Excellent client. Love working with Mads. Excellent. But 9 times out of 10, a lot of them are nightmares because they don't understand who you are, your ethos, your methodology. And this process of getting more brand width is also a process of getting more likability, more trust, and know. Know is like knowing you, who you are, what you do, your ethos, what you stand for, what you don't stand for, what you like, what you dislike, even just within the processes of coaching, what your process of, working with people is like. It builds know, like, and trust with people. Okay, so you kind of want people to go through this whole process realistically, but we can speed this up. If someone's just consuming, for example, short videos, it's going to take a lot of reels, a lot of reels and stories for someone to get through to that process. Whereas if someone consumes maybe a reel, another reel, and then maybe a long form podcast, and then maybe a YouTube video and a long form podcast, they only have to consume a couple of bits of content before they can move through this process. Now, there's numbers that we attach to this, but I hear a lot of different numbers banded around. I have found that on average, through myself and also what I see with you guys, I would say you need about 3 to 5 hours of brand width with someone, them consuming your things, for someone to be in that buyer zone. Other people say you need like 7 touch points, you need this and that, but I would say this is a nice kind of estimate number, and again, everyone's going to be different, to see how much someone needs to consume for you to move people forwards. Now, again, other things that can move people forwards a little bit faster, like we said, podcasts can be great because that's a long form thing. If someone listens to a 40-minute podcast, they've consumed a lot of time with you. In-person events can be great. That's a little stick man sat at a desk there. In-person events, that could be like a day. That's a lot of time spent with you. YouTube videos, long form stuff, again, bingeable stuff. Someone could spend 20 minutes with you. And then also a really big one, a big player here, lead magnets, right? This is a hit of value that moves someone across. And again, that could be short, it could be long, but it's a speed boost for this process of brand width. Okay, because again, what does brand width do? Know, like, and trust. If you solve a problem for someone, they trust you more and they like you more, right? And they know your process. It's really simple. So we want to, at some point with all of you guys, try and include some long form content in there. But depending where you're at, we'll start with short form, and we'll only do that when you're comfortable to do so, okay? And with our daily marketing block framework and evolution marketing, it is actually a lot easier than a lot of people think. A lot of people panic, right? They go, oh, fuck, right? So that's a process of getting someone along. We move them along. They get into the buy zone or the on the fence zone. If someone's on the on fence zone, by the way, it just means there's a barrier they need to get past. So they need to get over that. And that could be that they need to see more proof, or they need to see more, of your processes, or what it's like to work with you, or maybe more of your personality. Often what we find when you're kind of going, oh, like people aren't buying, but I'm doing all the right stuff, is probably because you haven't got enough proof, or you haven't, shown enough of your personality, or you haven't shown how you work with people enough behind the scenes. So we fix that. And again, unfortunately, these are lagging metrics. It might take 6 to 8 weeks for that to fix, but then it starts to get the ball rolling. Okay. Now, like we said, this timeline is laid out flat. It's the pyramid laid out flat. This pyramid here, let's do a little copy of this just so we can illustrate it a little bit better. This pyramid that we have here is really interesting, right? This is data from, again, what we've seen, it kind of lines up with this, but this is data from Google. And this is Google's data on millions of businesses on who in your audience is ready to buy. So remember, this is people in your audience, okay? And our goal is to get people to tippy top and then convert them into a paying customer, okay? So we have different segments of this audience. We have ready to buy. What's this? Ready to buy. This is people in the buy zone. Nice and simple, right? We have people who are on the fence. These are people who are almost there. They're maybe not ready right this second, but cook them up a little bit longer, pop them in the microwave for another 30 seconds, could be ready to go. These people are on the fence. Are these people here? Okay. Then we also have future buyers. These are people who are in this zone here. These are people who need more bandwidth with you to move into this or this zone. Okay, nice and simple. So these are the people up here. And then we have at the bottom, the never buyers. We don't care about these people because they're never going to buy from us. So we don't worry about them. Okay, so by knowing this, we can solve a really big problem that is also prevalent with online coaches. That the majority of online coaches focus on this 10%. They're focused on 10% of their audience who are ready to buy right now, or people who could buy, in a week or two, and they just need to have like a conversation with them, or give them a lead magnet, or, do something to just nudge them over the edge. And when you're so focused on this, and this is the mistake I made for years, is actually, this is a really small pool of people, right? Because let's say this audience is 100 people. Well, we know that 3% are ready to buy. What's that? 3 people. And we got 7 people who might buy in the future. They're just on the fence. They need a bit more time. So we've got 10 people here. And this is assuming we convert everyone. We've got 10 people on our audience who might buy from us. 3 right now and, 7 who might buy in a little bit of time. What we're leaving on the fence, or what we're leaving on the table, is this huge segment of our audience, this massive 60% that aren't ready to buy yet. And this is where people get stuck, is they spend so much time focus on why aren't people buying, that they don't actually focus on why people aren't buying. You haven't got people into this part of your audience. And this is a simple framework. It's a simple process. And if something isn't working in moving people up this timeline, along this timeline, or up the pyramid, it just means there's a little blocker in the way. And once you solve it, you can start to move people up. But this is where businesses separate themselves. If you focus on nurturing that 60% to move them into this audience, you now no longer are in a world where you've got 100 people. For every 100 people in your audience, you have only 3 and 7. You only have 10 people. You're in a world where you've also got another 60 people. There's 70 prospective leads in this audience now, compared to before when you had 10. There is no world, there is no reality in which you increase your leads by 60% and your business doesn't grow. Okay, this is a really important thing to understand. When this really lands with you, and it might take maybe you have to watch this again, but when it really lands with you, because this took a while, I understood this concept, but it didn't land. And then one day it just clicked. And I went, oh, I get it. I get it. I understand it. And my business, honestly, it was almost like overnight my business changed. I approached everything differently. When people download lead magnets and contact me and they don't sign up straight away, and I was going, oh, for fuck's sake, what's going on? Why aren't they buying from me? Grr. And then I realized, I was like, oh, hang on, someone's just down here. And I looked at all the previous clients I'd signed up and I was like, oh, actually, on average, they're probably downloading 2-3 lead magnets, and they've watched a couple of podcasts, and they've probably followed me for about 6 months. And I go, oh, someone's just here then. I just need to kind of give them another month and another pot like lead magnet. And it changed how I approach things. I'd suddenly go, well, how can I get them a lead magnet quicker? Hey mate, how's it going? I've actually just dropped a new training on XYZ. I don't know if you'd be interested, but I can shoot it over. It's free. Yeah, great. Send it over. Boom, there you go. Now you've got some more brand width with them. They were here and I've gone, hey, do you want to move to here? I send them the thing that moves them forwards, and boom, you've made that next step. Hey mate, I've just built a new AI tool that's going to help you to XYZ. I know last time we spoke, you were really interested in blah, blah, blah. You interested in that? Yeah, let's send it over. Cool, boom, done. Another step. But the issue that is created here is that if you're not doing that, you're not moving people up. And when that finally lands, you go, oh, I get it. Because you don't have a leads problem. You do not have a leads problem, by the way. A lot of coaches say, I just need more leads. You don't. You need more engaged leads. The leads are there. You have leads, but you're not engaging with those leads. What you want, what you say you want, is more leads. What you mean is, I want more leads who are ready to buy. Let that sink in. You say you want more leads. You do not want more leads, because the leads are here. Factually, they are there. You want more leads who are ready to buy, because a new lead is harder to sell to than maybe an ex-client. So why would you want someone who's harder to sell to than maybe an ex-client or a current client? You don't. You want more people who are ready to pay you money, essentially is what you're saying. And you can do that. It is on your plate. It is right in front of you. But you have to focus on doing this and change the approach in which you take to marketing. I can promise you, if you went back to all your old clients now and look at the chats and what they downloaded and checked your email marketing and all this sort of stuff, and looked at how many touch points you had, how long they'd followed you, how many lead magnets, you'd start to see patterns. And you would understand, oh my God, I just have to get someone to download on average 2 to 3 lead magnets and watch a few YouTube videos. Holy shit. It changes the game for you, okay? All right, cool. So we've tackled that. We've tackled the timeline. The last very important part. We've tackled how to get someone up here, but now we convert them. And this is where people go wrong, in my opinion. A lot of coaches, like I say, we're just microwaving. We're microwaving. And what we're doing is little passive, very, very low energy, low effort call to actions within content at the end of your fucking caption that no one's really even reading, and you're going, why is no one taking action? Because the reality is that for someone, even if they're on the fence, or sorry, for someone on the fence, it's even bigger of a hurdle, but someone who's ready to buy, even then, messaging you and going, hey, I'm fat and I want to fix it, essentially, like in a lot of cases, can be a bit embarrassing. It can be a bit of a hurdle, right? And they have to feel that there's this perfect storm going on for them to take action. And you just passively posting, hey, DM me for coaching. It's not a strategy. I'm sorry, it isn't. That is not lead generation, okay? You now need to do this last thing, the conversion event. So how do we do that? What do we do for a conversion event? If all you're relying on is this little, oh yeah, buy my thing, it's not going to work. Fill out my inquiry form, it's not going to work. Doesn't mean you don't do these things, by the way. They still have an effect. That could be one client here and one client there and one client there. Over the year, that could be 10 extra clients that you wouldn't have got if you hadn't done it. But what I'm saying is it's very passive. It's very just like, oh, well, if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. You need to be more aggressive and more forward with your marketing and your offers, okay? And this is where we have Rubik's Cube offers come in, right? Rubik's Cube offers, in essence, allow you to market multiple times, year round, non-stop, and you can always have something to sell, okay? And that is the magic bullet. This was one of the big things that really, again, when it landed and when I started doing it, whenever I go through a lull of like clients coming in, I go, oh, man, what's going on? And I'm looking at stuff and I go, when was the last time I actually sold something? Not put a passive call to action out, said, hey, DM me for coaching. When was the last time I said, hey, you've got this problem and I've got this cool new thing that can fix it. Do you want it? When was the last time I did that? And almost always I come back to it and I go, yeah, shit, I've not done that for a while. And then I turn the taps on and sales come in. It's just how it is, right? So what we want to do continuously through the year, and this is why a Rubik's Cube offer comes in, because if you're just doing like the same offer year round and you're just kind of like every now and then going, hey, I've got this thing, hey, I've got this thing, it's boring, people expect it, and what happens is they just delay and delay and delay and delay, and they spend years following you and they'll never take action, right? So we use Rubik's Cube offers because what it allows us to do is repackage, reposition our offer in millions and millions of different ways, depending on what's going on in the world, depending on what time of year it is, depending on our niche, what we're seeing is working, what isn't working, and all of that sort of stuff, right? So we have a Rubik's Cube offer here, and we can sell it. And what happens is because it's a Rubik's Cube offer, it's limited. Hey, this is here for 2 weeks. That's it. After that's gone, boom, we're shut. That's it. See ya. And then we bring in another variation later on in the year, and then another variation later on. So this could be your New Year program, and this could be a summer shred, and this could be a Black Friday special, for example, right? And you can have multiple more than this, but they're just examples. It is the same program. If I give you a Rubik's Cube now, and I say, hey, mix it up, it doesn't suddenly not become a Rubik's Cube anymore. It just looks different on its face value. If I do that, it changes how it looks. But it's the same thing. I don't have to build a new program every time. And what this does is it takes those people from this part of the audience and it gives them opportunities to opt in. And this is where you're stuck. You're not stuck because you don't have the leads there. The leads are there. You need to engage more of them and get them more engaged so they want to buy. But also you need to actually give them a thing that they can go, right, this is where I'm going to take action off the back of it. And passively posting call to actions that are like, hey, message me for coaching, or click link in bio, is not doing that. You need to speak to people, put offers in front of people, whether it's through email, through content, through talking to people, conversations. You need to actively say to people, I have this thing, it fixes this problem. Do you want it? Yes or no? And that's the thing that happens, right? With Rubik's Cube offers, again, the whole magic of this is you can sell this at multiple different tiers as well. So we can have like a lower tier thing in between and like a higher tier thing. So these can go out, for example, in the middle, between the big tier ones, and there's a cutoff here and a cutoff here and a cutoff here. And then you've got like breakaway offers. And what happens is you just constantly have stuff that you can sell at different levels, and you can react to what you are seeing in the market. For example, at the time of recording this, we've just ran our Black Friday launches, right? That's a big launch. That is this one. Going into the new year, you probably aren't going to sell a massive new launch on the same scale. You might run this, or you might run this, but it needs to come across different. Because if you just go, hey, Black Friday special, and then you sell the same thing, they'll just go, hey, you just sold that. And it's just boring. And then they get into that rhythm of where you were just posting and selling the same thing year round, right? So we don't do that. We come up with something new and exciting and done in a different way. And then, between that, maybe you're coming off the back of Coach's New Year, which is February, and you do a full program launch, and you go, right, I've done a full program launch recently. You know what? I'm going to do a group or a light tier launch or something else, right? So you constantly have things to sell. Maybe in between that, you've got a bunch of people, because again, another thing that happens here is your program and your offer has different tiers to it because it allows different risk tolerances, right? So someone who's interested in this one versus this one that's like 100 versus 200, just hypothetically, for some people, this might be too rich for their blood. And this is an easier entry, and then they end up joining the one-to-one anyway, but it was just the hurdle, the barrier that was in the way, right? So sometimes we have to understand that you can do everything right, someone can be on the fence, but the risk of it is too much. If you reduce the risk by reducing the price or what they're risking, reducing the price on a lower tier thing inherently reduces the risk because there's less money, there's less risk. They can jump in and then they go, oh my God, this was great, and they upsell anyway, okay? So that is how you get clients at the end of the day. You bring people in from your audience in the sea of socials, you put content out to them. When they follow you, you get enough brand width with them over time. You can do that slow or fast. Long form helps, and lead magnets help speed it up. But ultimately, someone just needs to consume enough time with you. That means, by the way, speeding it up means someone can get that 3 to 5 hours. Some people say 7 hours, but however long it is, someone can get that amount of time. And instead of it taking 8 months, it might take them 6 months or 3 months, kind of thing. And then they get into this area, and then all we need to do is reduce the risks for them through proof or lower tier offers or whatever it is, and we get them into the buy zone. And then instead of just passive lead generation, we actively make an offer to them. And if we're constantly moving people through this by moving people up the pyramid, we end up with a lot of leads. And your problem or the request of I want more leads vanishes, because you don't want more leads. You want more people and more leads who are ready to buy. And this is the solution that you need to implement. Now, 2 things to round this out. Number 1, if you've watched this and you go, that makes sense, great. If you've watched this and you've gone, that makes sense, and it hasn't fully clicked, maybe listen to this as like a podcast again and just really let it kind of settle in, because I can promise you, this is one of those things where when it clicks, when it really just, your brain goes, oh, fuck. Oh, I get it. I get it. Instead of just going, I understand it, you go, I get it. I get it. I promise you, your business will change fundamentally. If I could teach you one thing, this would probably be the thing that I teach you. Out of everything, this would be the lesson I'd probably give you to grow your business. And it's very simple, but people overcomplicate it. Okay? All right, cool. Any questions on that, please let me know. I think I've done a pretty good job of explaining that there. But if there are any questions, please do let me know. And yeah, this is something that changed, honestly, has changed my life, really. This probably made me more money than anything else that I've ever done. So it's a good lesson to learn. Right. So look, I've just spent the last half an hour telling you essentially that passive call to actions, woven into little bits of your content, do not work. So I'm going to not be a hypocrite here, and I want to speak directly to you. If you've watched this video and that you feel that something right now isn't working in this timeline from taking people from strangers, turn them into paying customers, and you can't seem to get that flow to work consistently for you, then I want to help you. Down below in the description, I've put a link to our inquiry form. If you fill that out, we can have a conversation, see if it might be a good fit for us to work together. And if we do, then we can have a conversation about getting the ball rolling. And if not, I can at least give you some free help and advice on exactly what you should be focusing on right now to grow your coaching business. Okay, link is in the description down below. Fill it out, and I'll speak to you soon.